Ethan Cole didn't plan to say it. That was the problem with exhaustion. It loosened the filter between thought and mouth. And Ethan had been exhausted for years. The morning started the same way most mornings did. He dropped his 6-year-old daughter Lily at school just before the bell rang, her pink backpack bouncing as she ran toward her friends. She waved once, big and confident, like she didn't need him hovering anymore. That tiny wave always hit him harder than he expected. Then came the drive downtown. Coffee. Traffic. Deadlines. By 9:07 a.m., Ethan was seated in the glass-walled conference room on the 32nd floor of Hartwell Dynamics, staring at the reflection of the city skyline and trying not to think about how expensive after-school care was getting. And then she walked in. Claire Hartwell, CEO, majority shareholder, and the kind of woman business magazines loved to describe with words like formidable and unshakable. Early 40s. Sharp navy blazer. Hair pulled back with effortless precision. Calm eyes that seemed to assess a room in seconds. She took her seat at the head of the table, nodded once, and the room quieted. Ethan had worked at Hartwell Dynamics for 5 years. He'd seen Claire hundreds of times. In meetings. In elevator reflections. In company-wide emails signed simply, Claire. Yet lately, something had shifted. Maybe it was the late nights preparing the expansion proposal. Or the one-on-one strategy sessions where the room felt smaller than it should have. Or the fact that Claire listened, really listened, when he spoke, like his words mattered beyond the spreadsheet. He hated himself for noticing. Because Claire Hartwell wasn't just his boss. She was untouchable. The meeting stretched on, market projections, acquisition risks, overseas partnerships. Ethan presented his segment cleanly, confidently. Claire asked sharp questions, the kind that pushed ideas forward instead of tearing them down. When it ended, people gathered their laptops and filtered out. Ethan, Claire said. Stay a minute. His stomach tightened. The door closed behind the last executive, leaving the room quiet except for the hum of the city outside. You handled the numbers well, she said, standing and walking toward the window. But you hesitated on the southeast rollout. Why? He shrugged. Risk tolerance. It's aggressive. Everything worth doing is, she replied. She turned to face him, arms crossed loosely, not defensive, just thoughtful. Sunlight cut across the room, catching in her eyes. And that's when he noticed how tired she looked. Not weak. Just human. The words slipped before he could stop them. If we were the same age, he said with a crooked smile meant to soften it, I'd steal you tonight. Silence. The air went still, like the room itself had frozen. Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. What the hell did I just say? He opened his mouth to apologize, to laugh it off, to resign on the spot. But Claire didn't react the way he expected. She didn't scold him. She didn't smile. She simply stared at him, unreadable, for a long 3 seconds. Then she spoke. You think this is about age? Her voice wasn't angry. That was worse. Ethan swallowed. Claire, I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. I didn't mean. I know what you meant, she said quietly. She moved back to the table, placing her hands flat against the polished surface. You're a single father. You leave every day at 5:30, no matter what. You don't attend after-hours events. You never flirt. Not once. She looked up at him again. So when you say something like that, it isn't casual. Ethan's chest tightened. I respect you, he said. Too much. That's why I keep distance. Claire nodded slowly. Good. Because distance is the only thing keeping this simple. Simple. The word landed heavy between them. She straightened, the CEO returning like armor sliding back into place. This conversation stays here, she said. You're one of my best people. Don't make me question your judgment. I won't, Ethan said immediately. He meant it. As he turned to leave, her voice stopped him again, softer this time. For the record, she added, not looking at him, age was never the issue. Ethan walked out with his heart pounding, unsure whether he'd just crossed a line, or uncovered something that had been there all along. And he had no idea that Claire Hartwell had just stood alone in that room, staring out at the city, wondering when she'd started wishing for a life she'd convinced herself she didn't want. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. He lay on his couch long after Lily had fallen asleep in her room, the glow of the baby monitor dim beside him. Every time he closed his eyes, Claire's voice replayed in his head. Age was never the issue. What did that even mean? By morning, he decided one thing for sure. Whatever spark had flared in that conference room needed to die. Quickly. At 8:45 a.m., he walked into the office with military precision. Coffee in hand. Tie straight. Head down. And for the first time in 5 years, Claire Hartwell avoided him. Not obviously. Not rudely. But in meetings, she directed questions around him instead of to him. When he spoke, she nodded but didn't linger. No private follow-ups. No quiet moments after others left the room. Professional distance. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like punishment. By Wednesday, the shift hadn't gone unnoticed. "You okay, man?" Mark from finance asked during lunch. "You look like someone kicked your dog." Ethan forced a smile. "Just tired. Kid stuff." Which was half true. Lily had asked the night before why he never went on dates like her friend Emma's dad. Ethan had laughed it off, but the question lingered longer than it should have. On Thursday afternoon, Claire sent a company-wide email announcing a last-minute trip to Chicago for an investor summit. And then, seconds later, Ethan received a calendar invite. Attendees: Claire Hartwell, Ethan Cole. 2 people. His heart dropped. He stared at the screen, debating whether to decline, when another message popped up. "Claire, this is strictly business. We need your projections in person." He exhaled and typed back. "Ethan." Understood. The flight was early Friday morning. At the airport lounge, they sat across from each other with laptops open, the space between them heavy with unsaid things. Claire was all focus, emails, calls, notes scribbled in the margin of a legal pad. Ethan watched her from the corner of his eye. She looked composed. In control. But he noticed the small tells, the way she rubbed her temple when stressed, how her jaw tightened when a call ran long. Human again. On the plane, turbulence hit halfway through. The seatbelt sign chimed. Coffee sloshed. Claire's hand gripped the armrest. "You okay?" Ethan asked before he could stop himself. She hesitated, then nodded. "I hate flying." That surprised him. Someone like Claire Hartwell afraid of anything? "You run a billion-dollar company," he said lightly. "But turbulence gets you." She gave a small, tired smile. "Control is comforting. Flying reminds me I don't have it." Something about the honesty cracked the wall she'd built. They talked quietly after that, about the presentation, about the investors, about Chicago winters. Nothing personal. Nothing risky. Still, it felt intimate. At the hotel, they checked in at the same time. 2 separate rooms. 2 separate keys. Professional. That night, after the investor dinner went flawlessly, Ethan returned to his room exhausted. He loosened his tie, kicked off his shoes, and checked his phone. A message from Lily's babysitter. "Babysitter, Lily had a bad dream. Asked for you." Guilt hit him hard. He called home immediately. Lily's voice was small and sleepy, but hearing it steadied him. When he hung up, there was a soft knock at his door. He opened it to find Claire standing there, not in her blazer this time, but in a simple sweater and slacks, hair down for the first time he'd ever seen it. "I'm sorry," she said. "I wouldn't normally." "Is something wrong?" he asked. She shook her head. "No. I just couldn't sleep." The hallway was quiet. Neutral ground. They stood there, 2 adults pretending they didn't feel the pull between them. "I crossed a line," Ethan said finally. "In that meeting. I don't want to jeopardize my job. Or your trust." Claire studied him for a long moment. "You didn't jeopardize anything," she said. "You reminded me of something I'd been avoiding." "What's that?" "That I've built my life so carefully. There's no room left for wanting." The words hung between them, fragile and dangerous. She took a step back. "This is where we stop." Ethan nodded. "Yeah." She turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth," she added softly, "you're a good father." "I see that." And then she was gone. Ethan closed the door, leaning his forehead against it, realizing the hardest part wasn't wanting her. It was knowing she wanted him too, and choosing not to reach. Because in the real world, desire had consequences. And neither of them had faced those consequences yet. By Monday morning, Hartwell Dynamics didn't feel the same. Ethan noticed it the moment he stepped off the elevator. Conversations paused just a beat too long. Eyes flicked away. Someone whispered near the coffee machine and laughed when he passed. He told himself he was imagining it. He wasn't. The Chicago trip had been clean. Professional. 2 separate rooms. No late-night drinks. No crossed lines. But perception didn't care about facts. By mid-morning, Mark from finance leaned into Ethan's cubicle, lowering his voice. "Hey man, people are talking." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Talking about what?" "You. And Claire." The words landed heavier than he expected. "What exactly are they saying?" Ethan asked. Mark hesitated. "That you're close. That you've got special access." Special access. Ethan felt a flash of anger. He'd earned every ounce of his position. Long nights. Missed weekends. Childcare juggling. Merit, not favors. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said. "I know," Mark replied quickly. "But you know how this place works. Power plus proximity equals assumptions." Ethan thanked him and went back to his screen, but his focus was gone. Across the floor, Claire stood inside a glass meeting room with 2 board members. Her posture was calm, confident, but when she caught Ethan's eye, there was a flicker of concern. She knew. An hour later, Ethan received a message from HR. Subject: check-in. His pulse spiked. The HR manager, Denise, was polite. Too polite. "This isn't a disciplinary meeting," Denise said, folding her hands. "It's preventative." Ethan nodded. "I understand. There's been some speculation," Denise continued, "about your relationship with Ms. Hartwell." Ethan chose his words carefully. "My relationship with the CEO is strictly professional." "I'm glad to hear that," Denise said, "because even the appearance of impropriety can be damaging. To you. To her. To the company." When Ethan left the office, his chest felt tight. That evening, Claire called him. Not texted. Called. "I heard HR spoke to you," she said. "Yes." "I'm sorry," she added. "This is my responsibility." "No," Ethan said. "This is how corporate ecosystems work. People fill silence with stories." There was a pause on the line. "Come to my office," Claire said. "After hours." Ethan hesitated. "That might make things worse." "I know," she replied. "But we need clarity. For both of us." At 7:10 p.m., her office floor was empty. City lights glowed through the windows. The quiet felt intentional. Claire didn't sit behind her desk. She stood near the window, arms folded, not as a shield, but as restraint. "This stops," she said. "Completely." Ethan nodded. "Agreed. No private trips. No late meetings. You'll report to Janet instead of me on strategic matters." That stung more than he expected. "I don't want your career collateralized because of me," Claire continued. "You have a daughter. Stability matters." The mention of Lily hit hard. "You don't get to decide that alone," Ethan said, calm but firm. "I didn't ask for special treatment. And I won't accept punishment disguised as protection." Claire turned to face him, eyes sharp. "Then what do you want?" The question hung there, dangerous and honest. "I want fairness," he said. "And I want you to stop pretending this is one-sided." Her breath caught. "Ethan," she said quietly, "do you know what it costs me to even acknowledge this?" He stepped closer, not touching. Never touching. "I know exactly what it costs," he replied. "That's why I haven't crossed the line." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city hummed below, indifferent. Finally, Claire exhaled. "There's a board meeting next week," she said. "They're pushing for a public restructuring. Image matters right now." "So we disappear," Ethan said. "Professionally." "Yes," she replied. And personally, that was the real sacrifice. He nodded once. Then this is goodbye. She didn't argue. As he turned to leave, she spoke again, her voice unsteady for the first time. I built this company by never wanting what I couldn't control. He paused. And now? He asked. Claire looked at the city, blinking back something dangerously close to regret. Now I'm learning control isn't the same as fulfillment. Ethan left without another word, knowing they had just chosen safety over truth. But stories like theirs didn't end because people made the responsible choice. They ended when the cost of pretending became too high. And that cost was coming. The board meeting didn't start badly. It started cold. Claire sat at the head of the long oak table, her expression unreadable as 12 board members flipped through briefing packets. The topic was framed as strategic realignment, but everyone in the room understood the subtext. Control. Image. Risk mitigation. Ethan wasn't in the room, but his name was. Cole's division is outperforming projections, one board member said. But optics matter. The market reacts to perception, not intent. Another added, single father. Close access to the CEO. It's not scandal, but it's vulnerable. Claire kept her voice steady. Ethan Cole is one of our strongest assets. Any implication otherwise is unfounded. The chair leaned back. Which is why we suggest relocating him. New York office. Promotion. Clean narrative. A promotion. That didn't feel like one. That's not his request, Claire said. It's the company's, the chair replied. Claire felt the weight settle in her chest. New York meant distance. From her. From Lily. From the fragile balance Ethan had built. But refusal would raise more questions. I'll speak with him, she said finally. Across town, Ethan sat in his car outside Lily's school, engine off, fingers resting on the steering wheel. He'd been offered interviews before. Recruiters called monthly. But he stayed because this job worked with his life. His phone buzzed. Claire, can we talk? He already knew. They met in a quiet park halfway between the office and his apartment. Neutral ground again. Benches. Joggers. Kids on bikes. Claire didn't sit. They want to move you to New York, she said. Senior VP. Immediate effect. Ethan laughed once, short and humorless. That's their solution. It's clean, she said. From their perspective. My daughter is here, he replied. My life is here. I know, Claire said softly. So this is about us, he said. Not a question. She didn't deny it. I told them no personal relationship exists, she said. But perception has momentum. Ethan exhaled. So I'm the variable they remove. Or the one they elevate, she countered. He looked at her then, really looked. You'd lose me either way, he said. Just in different forms. Claire felt the truth of it settle deep. That night, Ethan packed Lily's lunch while she colored at the table. Daddy, she said suddenly, are we moving? His hands froze. Why would you ask that? He said carefully. Ms. Jenna said sometimes parents move for work. Ethan knelt beside her. No. We're not moving. She smiled and went back to coloring, satisfied. Ethan stood there longer than necessary, realizing how close he'd come to breaking that promise without even making the choice himself. The next morning, he requested a meeting with the board. Not through Claire. Directly. The room was surprised. Ethan was calm. I declined the relocation, he said. And I request my reporting line remain intact. Silence followed. That's unusual, the chair said. So is restructuring someone's life to manage rumors, Ethan replied. One board member frowned. You're willing to risk your advancement? I'm willing to define it, Ethan said. Word spread fast. By afternoon, Claire was called in. You should have let me handle this, she said quietly when they finally spoke. I won't be protected at your expense, he replied. And I won't be managed out of my own life. Her voice wavered. You made this harder. No, he said. I made it honest. That night, Claire sat alone in her penthouse, staring at the city she'd conquered. For the first time, it felt less like a victory and more like a cage. She opened her laptop. Drafted a resignation letter. Didn't send it. Not yet. Across town, Ethan lay awake, realizing something irreversible had shifted. They'd stopped running. And now the world would respond. The news didn't break loudly. It broke quietly, the way corporate earthquakes always do. An internal memo went out just after 10 a.m. Subject: Leadership Update and Strategic Direction. By noon, it was everywhere. The board had rejected Ethan's relocation, but with conditions. His role would be restructured. Reduced visibility. Fewer strategic meetings. No direct contact with the CEO. A professional demotion without the title. Ethan read the memo twice, then closed his laptop. Around the office, people avoided his eyes. Others watched him with something close to sympathy. At the same time, Claire was summoned into a press call. An analyst asked it casually, almost politely. There are rumors of internal tensions between leadership and senior staff. Any comment? Claire answered with the practiced calm that had made her famous. Hartwell Dynamics is focused on long-term value and ethical leadership. Personnel decisions reflect that. The call ended. She muted the line. And felt something inside her break. By evening, social media speculation had caught up. Nothing explicit. Just threads. Think pieces. Whispered implications about power, favoritism, and corporate dynamics. Claire's phone buzzed non-stop. She ignored all of it and drove instead to a small playground near Ethan's apartment. She watched from her car as Ethan pushed Lily on the swings, her laughter ringing out into the dusk. The sight hit her harder than any headline. This was the life the board considered inconvenient. Ethan noticed the car eventually. He walked Lily home, tucked her into bed, then stepped outside when Claire knocked. She looked different. Not the CEO. Not the armor. Just a woman who'd lost control of the story. They punished you, she said. They contained me, Ethan replied. There's a difference. She swallowed. I let it happen. No, he said gently. You tried to protect the system. It just doesn't protect people back. Silence settled between them. Then Claire did something she hadn't done in years. She stopped negotiating. I'm done, she said. With pretending. With choosing optics over truth. Ethan's chest tightened. Claire. I'm stepping down, she continued. Not tomorrow. But soon. I'll transition leadership. Publicly. Cleanly. He stared at her. You built that company. And it built a version of me I don't recognize anymore, she replied. You don't have to burn your life down for me, he said. I'm not, she answered. I'm finally building one. She stepped closer, not touching, but no longer afraid of the proximity. For the first time, she said, I want something without calculating the fallout. Ethan exhaled slowly. I can't gamble Lily's stability, he said. Not again. I wouldn't ask you to, Claire said. I'm asking for time. Honesty. A chance. The city hummed around them. Ethan thought of the memo. The meetings he'd been cut from. The unspoken message, know your place. He also thought of Lily's laugh. And the woman standing in front of him, finally choosing herself. Then we do this right, he said. Out in the open. On our terms. Claire's eyes filled, not with weakness, but relief. She nodded. On our terms. They didn't kiss. Not yet. Because this wasn't about passion. It was about alignment. And the next move would change everything. Claire Hartwell's announcement came on a Tuesday morning. Not leaked. Not spun. Not softened. A live internal town hall. Cameras on. Board members seated behind her. No notes in her hands. For 13 years, she began, I have led Hartwell Dynamics with discipline, ambition, and an uncompromising belief in excellence. The room was silent. But leadership is not just about growth, she continued. It's about accountability. And today, I'm choosing transparency. She announced her planned resignation as CEO, effective in 6 months. A structured transition. A successor already being vetted. Stability preserved. Then she said the line no one expected. There has been speculation about my professional boundaries. I want to be clear, no ethical violations occurred. But the system we operate in often confuses proximity with impropriety, and punishes people for narratives instead of facts. Somewhere in the building, Ethan watched the broadcast from his office. Claire didn't say his name. She didn't have to. I will remain during the transition, she finished, to ensure this company continues stronger than I found it. The cameras cut. The internet exploded. But something else happened too. Respect. By afternoon, the board reversed Ethan's restructuring. Quietly. No apology. Just a revised memo restoring his authority. Ethan read it once, then closed the file. It felt smaller now. That evening, he walked Lily to the corner ice cream shop like he always did on Tuesdays. Claire waited inside, dressed casually, no entourage, no driver. Lily spotted her first. Hi. Lily waved. Your daddy's work friend. Claire laughed. Genuinely. I am. They sat together, 3 people sharing a booth that felt surprisingly natural. Later, when Lily was asleep, Ethan and Claire stood on his balcony, city lights stretching out before them. So, Ethan said, you just rewrote your legacy. Claire smiled softly. Or maybe I finally aligned it. He turned to her. What happens now? She didn't rush the answer. Now I learn who I am without a title, she said. And you decide whether staying makes sense anymore. He nodded. I've been thinking about that. A month later, Ethan declined a promotion. Instead, he accepted an advisory role, flexible, respected, remote 2 days a week. More time for Lily. Less theater. Claire finished her transition and stepped away cleanly. No scandals. No interviews. Just a closing chapter. They didn't move in together overnight. They didn't announce anything publicly. They dated. Quiet dinners. School pickups. Weekend walks. One evening, months later, Claire stood in Ethan's kitchen, watching him help Lily with homework. She leaned over and whispered, you know, if we were the same age. Ethan smiled, not looking up. I'd steal you tonight, he finished. Claire shook her head, amused. No, she said. You didn't steal me. She reached for his hand. We chose each other. And that made all the difference.